Akwaba, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the second episode of Season 2, where we are exploring our connections to struggle. Connections relates to struggle. Again, it will be the thread that will define and illuminate Season 2 of Mwalimu, Dropping the Knowledge. Struggle. To quote the Honorable and Esteemed Frederick Douglass, and I quote, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle, it may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will." End quote. Douglass was categorically correct. Black people have never been given anything. We have had to struggle, fight, march, protest, and even wage war to liberate ourselves. It has been a moral struggle and a physical struggle and an emotional struggle. In the motherland and in the diaspora, freedom fighters strategized intellectually, recruited people of like minds, and organized them towards the goal of liberation. Our connections in struggle are broad, powerful, and continual. One particular connection experience shared by African people worldwide has been that of resistance. Defined as the refusal to accept or comply, we resisted domination from the very beginning. The examples are legendary, numerous, and includes the fierce fighting against the conquest of the motherland waged by Queen Nzinga in Angola, the Ethiopians against Italian conquest, and the Ashanti 100-year war that the Ghanaians waged to resist British domination. As our ancestors were kidnapped and forcibly transported, resistance against enslavement and the enslavers began immediately. The Atlantic slave trade was littered with numerous slave ship uprisings. Successful uprisings killed captain and crew, liberating all the captives. The Jolly Bachelor in 1742, the Adventure in 1764, the Amistad in 1839, and the Creole in 1841, among others, all successfully freed African people bound for a lifetime of enslavement. Intentional and conscious fighting for liberation from the enslavers gave rise to Nanny of the Maroons of Jamaica, deadly poison plots in Bermuda, and the Haitian Revolution, and enslavement rebellions in Canada as well. In the United States, the elaborate escape plan known as the Underground Railroad had the participation of both blacks and whites, as did abolition movements and uprisings. Famous examples of uprisings with the goal of overthrowing slavery in the United States includes Denmark Vesey in South Carolina in 1822, Nat Turner's Rebellion in 1831, and John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry in 1859, both in Virginia. The armed struggle in the motherland to remove the yoke of colonialism was first waged by warrior Queen Nzinga in Angola. While she was not successful in stopping the Portuguese invasion of her country, she is credited with sparking the first stirrings of nationalism and resistance on the continent. Armed resistance was led by Yaa Asantewaa and Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta and Mau Mau in Kenya, Patrice Lumumba in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso, and brothers Amilcar and Louis Cabral in Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. Anti-apartheid movements led by Stephen Biko, Nelson Mandela, and Winnie Mandela also utilized armed resistance. In an effort to eliminate the leaders of armed resistance, colonial powers either exiled them or brutally assassinated them. In particular, Sally Bassett, Amilcar Cabral, Thomas Sankara, and Patrice Lumumba were all horrifically executed. Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Martin King were shot dead by an assassin's bullet. Other leaders were exiled, including Kwame Nkrumah and Yaa Asantewaa, but the people would not be denied their freedom. The spirit of struggle and resistance also inspired intellectual and cultural movements to reclaim our authentic identity and culture after mass brainwashing. The Harlem Renaissance and Negritude movement in Europe were early efforts to reframe the narrative of Black people that was also prominent in the efforts of Marcus Garvey and the Garveyites. The Black Arts movement of the 1960s took a page from the Harlem Renaissance, reframing our quest for liberation as non-negotiable, from the poetry of Gil Scott-Heron and Nikki Giovanni to the music of James Brown, telling us unapologetically, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. On every level, from the motherland to the diaspora, resistance took on a myriad of forms, from refusal to assimilate into cultural norms of whiteness, to political agitation for self-determination, to learning and embracing traditional African cultural ways and values. This work continues. On a global level, people of African descent seek wholeness as human beings, worthy of dignity, respect, love, care, and all things good. To be clear, African resistance to white supremacy is still ongoing, 400 plus years and running. Contemporary efforts to continue agitation for true liberation includes activist movements such as Black Lives Matter in the US and Citizens Uprooting Racism in Bermuda and Social Justice Bermuda. When it comes to the struggle to be properly educated, various movements to advocate for cultural education, especially African-centered education, programs like the Council of Independent Black Institutions in the US and Ashe University in Bermuda. The battle for accurate academic curricula for our young people is fierce with opposition from the majority of academic institutions. According to the late psychologist, university professor, Egyptologist, and my beloved mentor, Dr. Asa G. Hilliard III, we have a truth problem when it comes to history curriculums and textbooks. Baba Asa wrote that the information taught about Black people is negligent, filled with distortions and falsehoods. Dr. Carter G. Woodson wrote of this tragedy in his 1933 book, The Miseducation of the Negro. It could have been written yesterday. Woodson plainly explains that our general lack of self-knowledge in our primary education institutions is a foundational problem to our progress. One of his introductory statements continues to pierce my thinking and inform my work. He wrote, and I quote, "No systematic effort toward change has been possible for taught the same economics, history, philosophy, literature, and religion, which have established the present code of morals. The Negro's mind has been brought under the control of the oppressor. The problem of holding the Negro down, therefore, is easily solved. When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to control his actions. The problem of holding the Negro down, therefore, is easily solved. End quote. We'll be right back.